Welcome to NJBIA's Minding Your Business. I'm your host, Bob Considine. Well, there's been some movement on legislation to help small businesses during the pandemic. Here to talk about those bills and a few others is NJBIA Vice President of Government Affairs, Christopher Emigholz. Chris, thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, thank you for inviting me, Bob.
All right, Chris, so we're going to start small. I'm going to read this one because it's a bill that is moving through the Senate, at least. It's Bill S-234, sponsored by Senator Troy Singleton, which would ensure New Jersey businesses that receive federal assistance under the Paycheck Protection Program will not have to pay state income taxes on their loans, even if those loans are eventually forgiven. Chris, how big of a deal is this bill for small businesses?
This is a very big deal, Bob, because you've had thousands of small businesses around the state that were given help by the federal government, help because they knew the pandemic's no one's fault, the government restrictions on capacity and limits is not anybody's fault, and these businesses are struggling.
Right.
The government knows that. The federal government gave billions of dollars to New Jersey, and the federal government then clarified that it's not taxable federally, and for the state to turn around and try to tax that, not saying that they've announced that they will,
right,
but this bill by Senator Singleton and Assembly Majority Leader Greenwald in the Assembly, which hasn't moved yet, this bill clarifies that it's not going to be taxable. The other important thing that it does is the tax benefits or the tax liabilities of this come from, one, whether it's a tax liability or not, two, is the money that you're using to pay payroll, which is what the payroll protection program federal government was supposed to do, is that money a business expense that you can deduct like
right,
other business expenses, or is it separate? And I think we need some clarification to say it is business expense. The federal government did that back in December, saying it's not taxable and it is a business expense that you can deduct.
Right.
Our state has not formally said that yet. So this bill is hoping to clarify what we hope would have happened anyway, but just making sure, because the feds said you should use all of this money to keep as many people on payroll as possible. And if the state or the feds actually try to tax that,
right,
it would counteract the very thing they were trying to do in the first place, which is help businesses instead of actually pulling the money back.
Yeah, it would seem to defeat the purpose a little bit.
Completely defeat the purpose.
What is the appetite, your sense of the appetite with the legislature on this? I think you said it passed the Senate, correct?
So this bill has passed the Senate.
Right.
It is not moved in the Assembly, but we're confident. The Assembly Majority Leader, Louis Greenwald, sponsors the bill. Hopefully that's a good sign.
Mm-hmm.
We'd like to see it move. We're asking to see it move, and hopefully that happens soon. I think the broader legislative appetite, obviously it passed the Senate without any opposition.
Right.
But even Assembly and Senate, I think in a way it's funny, and it's good or bad, but I think they feel bad for us. We have among the highest unemployment rates in the nation. We have about a third of businesses, small businesses that were open in January of 2020 a year ago, are closed today.
Yeah,
and that's a third. That's ridiculous.
Yeah,
the amount of people that have been on unemployment, the amount of small business owners that are not having any income come in, and we need anything we can do to support our businesses.
Right. So along those lines, there's another bill, as I mentioned at the outset. This is called S-3305, sponsored by Senator Bob Smith, which would allow business to take a tax credit for COVID-19 related health safety improvements made in non-residential buildings in order to reduce the spread of the virus. Chris, what kind of safety enhancements are we talking about for this bill to apply to?
So if businesses have installed plexiglass, which if anybody's gone out to eat or been in a takeout place, you've seen more plexiglass and plastic around. If a building is installed like a touchless entry so that you get rid of those high touch areas that could possibly spread disease, any improvements like that are now going to be eligible to get you a tax credit,
right,
and to save on your tax liabilities. It's encouraging businesses that might not have done this yet,
right,
and it's also reimbursing the businesses that have did the right thing with their own money right away, and now the state's basically saying, hey, we're going to help you out because you did the right thing. It's going to help them out financially, and it's also helping make businesses more able and better prepared for dealing with this pandemic and any future health issues that come.
I'm thinking this is one that's going to help a lot of businesses, maybe a little.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to explain it.
It's more wide than deep, I guess. Okay. I know you'd recommended an amendment to this bill that the credit be available to corporate business taxpayers. Is that part of it? Right?
Yes. No, it's an excellent point, Bob. Thank you. We were very happy that Senator Smith and the Senate staff worked with us, that originally the bill was constructed just to help pass-through entities that pay their business taxes through the income tax.
Right.
And I think the majority of companies and restaurants and developers and realty firms that probably do this kind of thing are covered by the income tax, but there are some corporations out there that might have done the same thing, and we wouldn't want to see them excluded. So we were able to get CBT payers included in this bill, so it's a little more wide-ranging, as you said.
I want to turn to a bill that's a little more immediate in its impact. It's Bill S3093. This bill directs the governor to implement county-based plans for safely reopening businesses instead of the statewide one-size-fits-all executive order that's been used since the COVID-19 pandemic hit New Jersey last March. Chris, what's the benefit of having this kind of scalpel approach going forward for New Jersey businesses?
I think the benefit of Senator Gopal's bill in the Senate, also Assemblyman Berzicelli has a bill that passed out of an assembly committee, has not gone through the full assembly yet, but Assemblyman Berzicelli deserves credit because it was actually him that pushed it first. And now Senator Gopal's bill has passed the full Senate. It's twofold. Number one, as you said, the scalpel approach. There are areas in the state that are hit harder than others. It's just natural. That was the way it was back in the spring when COVID first hit us. It still is happening now. If there are ways that you can have extra safety and health precautions in one place, but then loosen them in someplace else that might be an hour, 2 hours away, then we should do that, because we want to get businesses and jobs going in places of the state where there's no reason to pull them back. And then if we need to be extra cautious in other places of the state, we should be. Right now with the one-size-fits-all, you could argue the one-size-fits-all hurts the economy and hurts our health safeguards that we put in place, because you're not able to deal with the health effects on a scalpel basis or the economic effects. So I think number one, there's going to be businesses that get benefit, and there's going to be greater health safeguards put in place. The second part that I think is also important and sometimes gets forgotten about with this reopening, because we're talking about reopening, is it adds some transparency. Every business could start to see, you know what, numbers are going up per what this legislation says, and if numbers hit a certain threshold, then I'm going to have to actually pull back my business. If the numbers are going down, hits a certain threshold, then I can open. And if you remember last summer, that July 4th incident where the governor told people to open and then pulled it back at the last minute, and there were many stories of business owners that invested in their own business to reopen, and then all of a sudden that money was for waste. And I think what this does is businesses need the plan. Businesses need greater predictability, greater certainty. And if they have in statute, okay, I'm going to be in this tier because right now my county's got a lot of COVID going on, or I'm in this tier because right now my county's doing a lot better than others, I can start to predict and plan for what my business should be doing to respond, either to be extra cautious or to actually open a little bit more and start creating more jobs, creating more revenue that'll eventually get to the state and make more tax revenue.
Got it. And this kind of approach is actually taking place in other states, isn't it?
Yes. I would say New York and Pennsylvania, which are the two states we like to look to, our neighbors. Both of them have had more of a regional county approach. It's also interesting, a lot of the states around us that have engaged in a regional county approach, also states that have had a higher capacity percentage than us. We have 25%, been stuck at that for a little bit. The governor, thankfully, just announced going to 35%, but other states have had this regional approach, have had higher percentages, and their COVID numbers aren't any bit worse than us. In some ways, their COVID numbers are better than us, but yet they've had this little more flexibility, a little more pro-business approach.
So do you think if this bill should get to the governor's desk, you mentioned the increase to 35% recently announced. I believe there'll be another bill signing on regarding expansion of outdoor activity. Do you think that this bill, if it gets to his desk, will actually get signed?
We don't know. We can never assume anything. And we hope it is. We will lobby and advocate to make sure it is. The governor has said that he sees a benefit from a statewide approach, New Jersey being a small state. I would respectfully disagree with that because, yes, it's a small state, but even if California were to do a regional approach, there's going to be some place where Central California and Northern California and Southern California, there's a border, there's a county border, everybody's got county borders, there's going to be businesses that are on one side of the border, the other side of the border, and if there's an open bar here and a closed bar here, is that going to drive foot traffic? Is that going to drive any issues? Potentially, and I think this is what the governors seem worried about, maybe, but there's been little evidence of that in other states, and I think the economic benefits and also the public health benefits of, again, that scalpel approach to we're going to crack down where health is a problem, and we're going to loosen up where health actually is doing well.
Yeah, I'm also thinking about, even in Pennsylvania, we're pretty close neighbors to them at some point. You look at Lambertville, New Hope. You can walk over the bridge and be in a different state, correct?
Oh, and I've been there, and I heard actually Senator Testa made this remark, and so I want to give him credit. Tale of Two Cities.
Yeah.
And that I was at an event, outside event, in Lambertville, and just the amount of people parking Lambertville, walking across to restaurants in New Hope, the amount of, again, revenue and jobs that we were losing to New Hope because they were less restrictive. And again, I have not seen evidence that New Hope had rampant COVID and New Jersey did not.
Right, all right. So I'd be remiss if I didn't spend our last few minutes talking about the New Jersey Economic Recovery Act of 2020, which was recently signed by Governor Murphy. Chris, you worked really hard on this with the legislature. What's your overall take on this?
It's an excellent bill. We think it has the potential to be a transformational economic tool for New Jersey and New Jersey's businesses. It was a massive, rich, robust program, and I mean the ultimate bill was 249 pages long. Is it perfect? No, but the economy needed this, and we went for 18 months between the expiration of the old economic development program to this one. I think this one is improved in many ways. But it's still 18 months without having any comprehensive economic development tax incentive tool was too long. And I think we lost jobs and we lost revenue because of that.
Oh, yeah.
This new one, what's exciting about it is the diverse set of tools that it offers. Number one, BIA has always been a big fan of innovation. We think innovation drives the state economy, and the focus on innovation in this bill, whether it's the governor's signature Innovation Evergreen program, the smaller Ignite program, the expansion of the Angel Investor and NOL program, all of those things are focusing on helping the businesses that have a better chance to grow, better chance to bring jobs and expand our innovation ecosystem, and then that'll kind of have this multiplier effect and expand more jobs.
Right. Again, you mentioned no bill is perfect. Do you think there's enough here for small business in this package?
That's an excellent point. It's one of the things that we would like to have seen changed. So the bill over 6 to 7 years is scheduled to have $14.4 billion spent on growing our economy and tax incentives and sometimes direct grants. One of the direct grant programs is a $50 million program for Main Street small businesses. Well, we're happy to see that there, and previous EDA programs, tax incentive programs didn't focus as much on small business. I think $50 million, which is probably approximately 0.3–0.4% of the $14.4 billion, it's a drop in the bucket when we know that those are the guys that are hurting. Those are the guys that need the most help. So I think there is more of an emphasis on small business in this program, but it's not enough. And we're hearing that the legislature is interested in adding to that. We're hearing that a bill may be introduced at any moment to work on that. That's a good thing. We hope the Senate and Assembly can get behind putting a few more $100 million into the EDA. The NJBIA has done a remarkable job at getting a lot of money to businesses that need it in a hurry.
Sure.
The only problem that we've had with EDA programs is we want to see more money go to them.
And they're oversubscribed so quickly.
Yeah, they run out of money in a heartbeat, but I think Tim Sullivan at the EDA and their staff have done a great job, and also a great job in making sure this money is spent well and going to businesses and having rigorous application process, but not too rigorous where it's onerous, and getting it out in a hurry and not wasting anything. And they deserve a lot of credit, but I'd like to see more go to them because I believe in what they're doing.
Right. Well, Chris, thank you so much for that information. If you want to read more for our viewers, if you want to read more on the tax incentive program, you can go on our website at njbia.org/resources/fast facts for everything you want to know about the New Jersey Economic Recovery Act. Chris Emigholz, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Bob. I look forward to coming again.
All right, great. And we'll be back right after this.